Welcome back to our channel. Imagine holding a 25-cent coin that's secretly worth thousands. In 2005, one rare quarter error shocked collectors nationwide. Then in 2016, a subtle design flaw made ordinary change suddenly extraordinary. And by 2020, a stunning mistake turned a common quarter into a six-figure headline. These aren't myths, they're real coins hiding in everyday pockets. Like what you hear? Hit like, tap subscribe, and stay tuned. Your spare change might just make you rich. Let's start with 2005. The year was 2005, and in the hollows of the Appalachian Mountains, history was once again pressed into metal. The West Virginia State Quarter, 25th in the 50 State Quarter series, rolled off the presses at the U.S. Mint, bearing the image of the legendary New River Gorge Bridge, a symbol of architectural triumph suspended above a river that had carved its path through time. Millions of coins struck in Philadelphia and Denver bore this monumental design, quietly slipping into pockets and purses, vending machines and tills. It was a scene repeated countless times in numismatic history. But somewhere, in the quiet hum of machinery, a small anomaly passed unnoticed. Collectors were already chasing state quarters with focused fervor. The novelty of the designs and the satisfaction of completing all 50 gave even casual collectors a reason to examine each coin that crossed their path. Most coins bore their intended design, perfect down to the smallest detail. But every so often, a slip, a misfeed, a die crack, a clash left its mark. And in this case, that mark would change everything. The story didn't begin in a coin shop, or at a show, or even in a collector's binder. It began in the most unassuming place, a small-town West Virginia diner, where change was handed across a counter without ceremony. A middle-aged man, barely into coin collecting, received a handful of coins with his morning coffee. One stood out not because of what was there, but because of what wasn't. The bridge, bold and sweeping, seemed blurred. Not in a casual, worn-down way. There was distortion, ripple, something that made the image appear doubled. He turned it under the fluorescent light. The details bled ever so slightly. He set it aside without understanding why. Later that evening, curiosity tugged harder than he expected. A magnifying glass and a flashlight revealed more. The word quarter showed doubling. United States echoed faintly behind itself. Could it be machine doubling? Or something rarer? He called a friend, a retired engraver who once worked on contract for the Mint in Philadelphia. The man chuckled at first, until he heard the details. A pause followed. Then silence. Then the suggestion, "You may want to get that looked at professionally." It was what's known in numismatic circles as a double die, more specifically, a Class 4 type, with offset images visible to the naked eye. Unlike mechanical doubling, this wasn't the result of a loose die or a bouncing strike. This was forged at the die creation level, where the hub and die had failed to align perfectly during the impression process. In essence, the error was born before the coin ever touched a blank. And suddenly, this casual diner discovery took on a weight far greater than its face value. News of the find traveled slowly, whispered between collectors and online forums. At first, skepticism reigned. Could the West Virginia quarter, struck by the millions, really harbor a major double die variation that had slipped beneath the Mint's radar? Verification by two grading agencies quieted the doubts. One coin, graded MS-66, showed dramatic doubling on both the bridge and the text. Only a handful would surface in the following months. And each one confirmed the suspicion. This was no ordinary error. Prices were modest at first. An eBay auction fetched $85. Another sold at a regional show for $120. Collectors hovered, unsure whether to jump. Then, the chatter grew louder. A renowned collector from Ohio, known for acquiring high-grade error coins, paid nearly $600 for a certified piece. That sale ignited a frenzy. Prices doubled overnight, then doubled again. Coin magazines began running short blurbs. Some suspected the mint might step in to address the issue publicly. They never did. The value curve wasn't smooth. For every steep rise came a plateau, a correction, a lull. Yet, over time, the pattern emerged. Upward motion, steady as the bridge on the coin itself. By 2012, a specimen in near-gem condition traded hands privately for over $3,000. The buyer? A museum archivist with an eye for the obscure. The seller? A teenager who had plucked the coin from circulation, unaware of its true rarity until his grandfather pointed it out. But the story didn't end with the doubling. That was merely the gateway. It was a collector in Arizona, deep into a personal project cataloging minor die varieties across state quarters, who uncovered something even more unusual. One coin, almost overlooked, showed not only doubling but a misalignment so precise it created a crescent of unstruck metal near the rim. And within that crescent, a faint trace of design, just the edge of the letter R floating outside the usual field. The anomaly was so delicate it took digital scanning to confirm. The coin had been struck off-center by less than 5%, yet just enough to create what appeared to be a phantom rim character. It wasn't part of the double die group. It was something else. Something rarer. The numismatic community bristled with speculation. Could it be a transitional die pairing? An early experimental strike? Or a hybrid and off-center strike combined with a double die obverse? Opinions diverged. But the consensus was simple. This wasn't supposed to exist. Soon, eyes turned back to the mint. Internal documentation released years later through a FOIA request showed that during the early months of 2005, the Philadelphia Mint had undergone scheduled maintenance on its die alignment systems. During this time, several backup dies were brought into production dies that may not have undergone full, maybe tens of thousands before being retired. Yet, despite that potential, only a few dozen confirmed examples of the major double die were ever graded. And only just one matched the Arizona collector's hybrid error. That single coin, dubbed by enthusiasts as the Phantom Bridge, became a legend in its own right. When it went to auction in 2021, experts debated whether its true nature would be appreciated by the market. It was listed conservatively estimated between $8,000 and $12,000. But as the hammer fell, jaws dropped. Final bid, $26,700. The ripple effect was instant. Secondary market listings for West Virginia era quarters surged. Old coin jars were dumped, scrutinized under loupes and scopes. Dozens of minor doubling examples less dramatic, more contested emerged, some fetching a few $100s, others barely breaking face value. Yet the mystery remained. If the error window was real, why so few coins? Were they still out there? Had they been lost to vending machines, coin rolls, or simply worn down in circulation? A Texas metal detectorist claimed he found one buried near an old fairground. He described seeing the shimmer of silver between dirt and grass, brushing it off, and immediately recognizing the doubling under sunlight. His story circulated widely. Though the coin itself was never certified, it disappeared into a private collection, traded for gold eagles and cash. And then came the twist that no one saw coming. In late 2023, a former Mint employee retired for over a decade revealed in a podcast interview that during the 2005 production run, there had been a brief, unrecorded trial strike using newly digitized hubbing equipment. The trial included just 5 dies, produced as a test batch for upcoming technological transitions. The equipment had not yet been approved for full-scale use and was quickly shelved. According to his recollection, those dies were ordered to be destroyed. But a clerical error in tool tracking allowed at least one to slip into production unnoticed. The new revelation confirmed a long-held suspicion. The double die wasn't a mere oversight, it was a byproduct of experimental hubbing. That insight cast the error in a whole new light. It wasn't just a mistake. It was a glimpse into a moment of technological transition at the Mint, a rare relic of a process that was supposed to remain behind closed doors. the auction market responded again. In early 2024, a pristine MS-67 example of the West Virginia double-die quarter crossed the block at a high-profile auction in Chicago. Speculation was fierce. The provenance was airtight. Bidding opened at $15,000. It climbed, hesitated at $21,000, surged past $30,000. Final hammer price, $41,200. That sale rewrote the ceiling and confirmed what collectors already knew in their gut: this coin was more than a quarter. It was a story, an accident of timing, a survivor of change. Still, the true total mintage of the era remains unknown. Some believe fewer than 100 exist in collectible condition. Others insist the number is higher, but hidden obscured in the basements and dresser drawers of everyday Americans unaware of what they hold. To this day, in numismatic circles, the West Virginia error is spoken of in hushed tones. Not because it's flashy or dramatic in its visuals, though the doubling is clear, but because of how quietly it slipped through history. Its story isn't one of immediate recognition, but of gradual revelation. A reminder that sometimes, the most valuable finds aren't loud. They're subtle. They wait, patiently, for someone to notice what others have overlooked, and somewhere, perhaps in a forgotten roll, another rests, its bridge slightly blurred, its letters echoing, its past waiting to be discovered again. The year was 2016, and nestled quietly among the many coins minted that year was one seemingly ordinary quarter, a piece of metal that bore the stoic image of Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. At first glance, it blended into the sea of pocket change, showing John Brown's fort in crisp detail, a tribute to one of the most pivotal moments in American history. But as always, history is rarely without its imperfections. Sometimes, it leaves behind a trace, one so minute, so easily missed that only the most observant eyes can uncover it. The Harper's Ferry quarter, third in the America, the beautiful series for 2016, rolled off the presses at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints. It was a symbol of defiance and revolution, etched into copper-nickel alloy. The fort, rendered in miniature, stood centered on the reverse. Windows, bricks, the curvature of the trees, every line bore the weight of a nation's past. And yet, in the rhythmic clinking of coins leaving the mint, something else escaped too, something unintentional. It was in an old family home in Maryland, not far from the very ground John Brown once walked, that the path to discovery began. A man named Caleb, a seasoned coin collector and amateur historian, found himself combing through a modest pile of change collected in a weathered coffee can. He had long given up on the hope of finding anything truly rare among modern quarters. But he examined each piece out of habit, as if by doing so he paid quiet homage to the past. His fingers brushed against the Harper's Ferry quarter. Nothing unusual at first. The fort was there, the fields, the building's solemn dignity intact. But Caleb paused. He tilted the coin toward the light. There it was, the roof. The shingles appeared blurred. No, not blurred, doubled. He blinked, then held the coin closer. The text around the rim, E pluribus unum, was not crisp. A ghost image shimmered just above the actual design. His pulse quickened. He rushed to his magnifier. Every detail began to reveal its secret. A strong die clash? No. A common doubling? Not quite. This was a textbook case of a double die, one of the clearest he'd ever seen. The doubling was not subtle. It ghosted the letters, made the fort appear to shimmer, almost tremble, as if echoing the tremors of history itself. He sat in silence, his breath catching. Then he grabbed the red book. Nothing mentioned this error. Online coin communities showed rumors, unconfirmed sightings, blurry images, but no consensus. Caleb's heart pounded. Had he just found something undocumented? Word spread fast. Caleb posted images online, and experts chimed in. A few began dusting off their own collections. And one by one, other examples trickled into view. Some had minor doubling. Others had the same striking features: rooflines, windows, inscriptions all duplicated in exact but offset form. These weren't machine doubling artifacts. They were real. This was a legitimate double die variety, unnoticed in the initial mint release. The timing was unusual. Errors like this typically draw attention fast. But 2016 had seen a rush of coin releases, and the Harper's Ferry quarter, despite its historical weight, was often overlooked in favor of flashier designs or older rarities. That oversight became a collector's treasure. At first, coin shops didn't know what to make of it. A few early finds sold on online auction sites for modest sums: $25, $40 small sparks that went unnoticed. But collectors began to hunt with intent. The story of the Harper's Ferry double die began to surface in forums, in newsletters, in late-night discussions between coin enthusiasts. Some quarters with clearer doubling began fetching three-digit prices. Then one specimen, found in near-mint condition, was listed with detailed imagery and authenticated by a major grading service. The sale shocked the community. The coin went $4 $1.50. The rush began. Pocket change was suddenly examined with new urgency. Rolls of 2016 quarters were bought in bulk. Those from the Philadelphia Mint seemed to yield the most frequent errors, though a few Denver minted examples began to appear as well, though with subtler doubling. It turned into a hunt, a modern-day gold rush, but one where the treasure was tucked in the smallest missteps of mechanical precision. The doubling was different from past famous errors. It was subtle enough to pass undetected by many, but bold enough to dazzle when seen. On some, the United States of America art showed separation along the upper serifs. The date, 2016, had a shadowed repetition. But what truly gave the coin its magnetic charm was the illusion created on John Brown's fort. It seemed to almost ripple, as if the weight of time was too much for its tiny likeness to bear. Collectors reported finding these errors in the most unexpected places. One was pulled from a vending machine tray. Another surfaced in a church donation box in Kentucky. A particularly sharp example was given in change at a gas station near Harper's Ferry itself, as if destiny had looped back to the beginning. The more time passed, the more attention the error drew. Numismatic publications began referencing the anomaly. It received an official designation, a double die reverse DDR. Certification companies began grading them more frequently. But not all coins were created equal. Some had light doubling interesting, but not valuable. Others, like Caleb's, bore the strongest features. Only a handful were rated in high mid-state grades with clear doubling, and these became the trophies. In 2021, 5 years after its release, a dramatic twist emerged. A collector, diving deep into mint error reports, found records indicating that during a specific week in mid-2016, a single die at the Philadelphia Mint had undergone improper die polishing following hubbing. It was reused without correcting alignment issues, likely due to increased production demand. That mistake birthed the double die error. But here's the kicker. The mint had quietly replaced the die within days, meaning only a tiny number of coins ever left with that specific doubling. Fewer than a few thousand, by estimates. Of those, only a fraction survived circulation in collectible condition. This wasn't just another error. It was a micro-batch of history's scarce, tied directly to a national landmark, and born from one of the mint's rarest known oversights of the decade. In 2023, a Harper's Ferry DDR in MS-67 condition appeared in a high-profile auction. Bidding started at $600. Within minutes, it jumped past $1,000, then $2,000. The audience, many unaware of the error's existence, watched in disbelief. A 2016 quarter reaching the price of a gold eagle? The final hammer came down, $3 for 20. And yet, the story isn't over. New examples continue to emerge. Collectors are still searching, still hoping to find one more piece of the past hiding in the present. But the truth is, the most valuable examples are long gone from circulation. They live now in holders, in safes, in curated displays, each one a testament to the fragility of perfection and the power of discovery. That one little error, hidden in the folds of a fort drawn on nickel and copper, turned a 25-cent coin into a treasure worth $3,420. All because someone paused, tilted a coin toward the light, and dared to look a little closer. It was 2020, a year already destined for the history books. But while the world's attention was turned toward events far larger in scale, something smaller, quieter, and far more subtle was making its way into pockets, cash registers, and coin rolls. A newly minted $2, part of the America the Beautiful series, featuring the National Park of American Samoa, had entered circulation. It depicted a pair of fruit bats, an adult bat cradling its young in an upside-down pose, surrounded by soft jungle shadows. A coin meant to inspire curiosity and reflection. But within a limited batch of these coins, something had gone wrong. The design itself was striking and unique. No other U.S. coin had ever featured a bat before. It was chosen to highlight the fragility of island ecosystems and the importance of conservation. The moment was tender, intimate. But while the image captured the natural world in balance, the minting process did not. The Philadelphia and Denver mints produced millions of these quarters. The design was detailed, and dies were under strain to keep up with demand. In the middle of the rush, something subtle slipped through, something that would go unnoticed by most, but not all. It began in Oregon, just weeks after the coin's release. A young woman named Sasha, a wildlife photographer with a small collection of national park quarters, happened upon the coin while paying for coffee. The bat design immediately caught her. Being a conservationist herself, she appreciated its symbolism. But what drew her attention wasn't the bats. It was the lettering. Specifically the word Samoa. The letters were doubled, slightly shadowed. Not soft and fuzzy like mechanical doubling, but crisp, defined. It looked almost as if two stamps had been applied, one slightly off from the other. She flipped the coin under light. The date, 2020, and E pluribus unum, carried the same eerie duplication. At first, she dismissed it. Could have been wear. Could have been a bad strike. But instinct told her otherwise. She placed the coin under her macro lens and snapped a few photos. That evening, after hours of comparing it to other quarters online, she posted her findings on a coin forum. A few collectors responded. Some scoffed. But then one older member, a former mint technician, chimed in. "That's a double die," he wrote. "And a sharp one at that." The post lit up. Others started checking their 2020 back quarters. Soon, a pattern emerged. Coins from Philadelphia, mostly early in the print run, were exhibiting the same doubling on both the obverse and reverse. The most dramatic ones affected the inscriptions, but in some cases, the bat's fur itself appeared slightly layered, as though the wings were outlined twice. Collectors began to take notice. Coin dealers across the country started receiving calls asking about the bat error quarter. Most had no idea what they were talking about. But then came a breakthrough. A coin grader from a major numismatic certification agency confirmed Sasha's coin as a legitimate double die, one of the first officially recognized for that issue. Within weeks, a frenzy took hold. The error wasn't common. For every 100 bat quarters examined, maybe one showed signs of doubling. And of those, only a few carried the type of dramatic, easily visible errors like Sasha's. Prices began to rise. Early on, eBay listings hovered around $30 to $40. But once the story was picked up by a coin blog, demand exploded. The bat design itself was already drawing attention due to its unusual subject matter and the bizarre timing of its release. It came out just as a global pandemic was beginning to spread. The image of bats, once symbolic of nature's delicate balance, now carried a surreal weight. For some, it became a strange artifact of the year itself. But for collectors, it was the error that mattered. .1 sharp specimen, graded MS-66, surfaced at a mid-tier auction. It carried strong doubling on the date and reverse inscriptions. The hammer price? $680. That sale triggered a hunt. Coin roll hunters, desperate to find one, bought boxes from local banks. Most came up empty. A few lucky ones hit the jackpot. The U.S. Mint never publicly acknowledged the error. But records showed that in early 2020, the Philadelphia facility underwent several die maintenance sessions due to production strain. It's believed that during one of these sessions, a hubbing misalignment occurred, creating the doubled die. The die was used briefly before being replaced. That short window explains the scarcity of the error. And then, something truly unusual happened. In late 2022, a man named Miguel, a janitor from Arizona, shared a photo on social media of a back quarter with bizarre characteristics. Not only was there doubling, but the rim appeared warped. At first, it looked like post-mint damage. But collectors noticed something peculiar. The coin had a partial collar strike and off-center placement. And yet, the doubling remained crisp. This meant it wasn't just one error, it was a compound error, combining multiple minting mishaps in one coin. This coin caused an uproar. Within a month, it was sent to a grading agency, where it was authenticated and encapsulated. No other known example combined a strong double die with a misaligned collar and off-center strike. It was, as some described, the perfect storm of minting errors. A true outlier. The coin went to auction in early 2023. Expectations were high, but no one guessed how high. The bidding started at $1,000. It moved swiftly. Phone bidders joined in. The price crossed $2,000, then $3,000. When the gavel finally fell, the total sale price stunned the room. The coin sold for $4,200. Since then, the 2020 back quarter has taken on a mystique of its own. Collectors still search for them, hoping for a glimpse of doubled wings or shadowed lettering. Most will never find one. But those who do know that what they're holding isn't just a piece of currency. It's a relic of a moment in history, of a mistake turned marvel, and a value born not from perfection, but from the smallest of imperfections. And today, in pristine condition with sharp, unmistakable doubling, a certified 2020 back quarter error can command a staggering value of $4,200.